Welcome back to the Heron Outlet. He is Austin Robillard. She is Alex Winley. I am Ian Hest. A quick emergency pod, guys. I don't know if it's an emergency pod. I don't know if it rises to that level, but shortly after we finished recording the pod yesterday, news broke a great article from Michelle Kaufman in the Miami Herald. Check that out with them and with her, discussing the future of a couple of important factors in Inter Miami's 2022 campaign or Inter Miami's 2021 campaign. The first, and let's address the elephant in the room, quoted as saying that Blaise Matuidi is not going to be in the plans in 2022. Obviously, we discussed Rodolfo Pizarro expected to head to Monterrey in the coming days in a loan capacity, 1 year left on the deal, and an option to buy afterwards. But I just want to quote quickly from Michelle's article: Matuidi's future, quote, with the club is uncertain. The 34-year-old French World Cup winner has 1 year left on his contract, not expected to be a part of the team's plans. Not something that I didn't think that it comes as any of a surprise, but Michelle did go on to say it is unknown whether Matuidi will retire, join the club in an off-field role, which I found surprising, or whether he will be dealt to another club, but he likely has played his last game in an Inter Miami jersey. So let's start there. Obviously, Matuidi is frankly the cause of the sanctions as a fourth designated player making the salary that he was, and the club getting an unprecedented fine. They've tried to mitigate that, moving Lewis Morgan for $1.2 million in GAM, general allocation money. But let's just start with Matuidi and what the situation is.
So Matuidi, he should be on his way out, according to Michelle Kaufman. It did it did come as a bit of a surprise because the sources did say that they weren't expecting to buy him out, but it's the off season, things can change, and by the tone of that article, it sounds very much that either Matuidi will just leave and go to another team, or retire and join the club in some sort of like official role, sort of like Federico Higuain with him and his coaching. So, yeah, this is massive. It changes the trajectory of this offseason for Miami. He talked about it on the pod last night that Miami needed that X factor, and there also in that article, Michelle Kaufman did confirm that Pizarro's loan doesn't free up a DP spot because there's no loan fee that Monterrey will be paying. So, I think that forced Miami's hand, and I think it's a big indicator that they probably will bring in a DP this offseason because if Pizarro, if his loan did free up a DP spot, I think they would have filled it. But the fact that it didn't, it more or less forced their hand to force Matuidi and out of the club, which is a good thing because we've talked about on this pod how Matuidi is pretty much a traffic cone at this point in his stage of his career. Yes, he's a World Cup winner. Yes, he's done all that and has the accolades, but it's clear his time, as a professional, maybe yeah, his time as a professional footballer, it's starting to end, and we saw it on the pitch, and you know, just several stories about that New England game where he allegedly left at halftime when the team was down 4 goals. So it's just not a good look for the team, the club, and Chris Henderson getting rid of Matuidi, whether it be to another club or still at Inter Miami, but just in a different role, is absolutely huge.
I've noticed a common theme with a lot of the departures that Miami are having is that we can all call them like a mutual good decision for both parties. Like it just seems like all these quote unquote breakups seem to be beneficial for both parties. Maybe a little bit helping Miami, but we look at the Lewis Morgan thing, we look at the Pizarro thing, and now we look at this Matuidi thing where, he wasn't playing a good consistent role. He was regressing. I know that's our favorite word to use for him. And I think that if they can find something for him in the club, if he likes the club enough or he likes South Florida enough, they can find something for him inside the club. That would be a good thing. However, they know that he can't be on the pitch, and I think that we all knew they probably didn't want him on the pitch going past the 2021 season. It was just, how is it going to get done? And that question is still up in the air. How is it going to get done? What exactly are they going to do with him? A buyout would be pretty expensive. A trade or a transaction within the league would be expensive for another club. Or is any other club willing to take that kind of money on for a player like Blaise Matuidi at this point in his career? Does he just retire and give up the salary and he doesn't force a buyout? I mean, it's interesting to think about how this is going to play out. But as for what it means for Inter Miami, with Matuidi off the pitch and off the books, and Pizarro, who I'm sure we're going to discuss, he's gone. And I think Michelle Kaufman in the article stated that Monterrey is expected to announce that signing this week. That's $1.2 million off the books under regular salary budget. Think about it. That's two DPs that are off the books. The cap hit for that is $612,000 each, depending on whether they bought down the hit with GAM. But that's a lot of money off the books, regardless of opening up two DP slots compared to one. I know it's just one with Matuidi, but there is a lot of money that Miami are freeing up this offseason. They're bringing in players on relatively small or no deals at all. If you look at the Bryce Duke thing that was just announced, they're signing him as a homegrown player, so that doesn't affect the salary cap. I think that there's a lot of smart moves that Henderson's making, and it's not just for the right now. It's not just for 2022, but it's for the future. It's to set up through these sanctions how the team is going to look past the 2022 and 2023 seasons.
Well, Austin, I wanted to talk to you about that because the money that they freed up with, losing LGP, rumored to be losing LGP, sending Julian Carranza to Philadelphia Union, that freed up a lot of the general allocation money. You combine that with the GAM that they got for Lewis Morgan, and it sort of balances out the entire sanctions role that allows you to go out and get a Bryce Duke for 100,000. It allows you to go out and swap Mo Adams for Dylan Castanero. It allows you, to make some of these moves that they've done. I wonder is it a lack of ambition, or is it just this is the nature of the beast and this is what we're going to have to deal with? And if now you can sort of wipe your hands clean of everything that happened. Pellegrini's out the door, Carranza's out the door, now Matuidi's out the door, Pizarro's out the door, and you can just say, hey, fresh start. Everybody breathe. It's gonna be okay, and this is the time to move forward with optimism.
Yeah, the word I want to use may have somewhat of a negative connotation, but for Chris Henderson, I think it's all just extremely pragmatic. He understands the reality of the situation that this club is in, and he has to do things a certain way in order to try and be successful. Like I said, not right now, but in the future. And making these moves and getting this money off the books. Think about it. That's four players who are making either DP or allocation money. We have Carranza, LGP, Pizarro, and Matuidi. The amount of money that comes off the books if all of those four players are gone is a number that definitely wipes away a lot of the sanction money, maybe even more so. And then, like you said, it gives them the ability to make smaller signings within the league. I believe some allocation money was traded within the Mo Adams, Dylan Castanero trade. You look at the Bryce Duke trade for $100,000 in GAM. If you're losing 25% of your GAM and still making trades with GAM within the league, you're doing something right, and you've gotten that money back, and especially with the Lewis Morgan trade. And I think that they split that money up over the course of two seasons, which looks like a genius move, given that they're getting all this money off the books without him. So they've got money in 2023 now, too. A lot of that money is back. It's definitely Chris Henderson realizing that the situation is brutal. However, I think he's found a way to maneuver around it, especially with these loan deals on expiring contracts. Think about it. With Rodolfo Pizarro being loaned to Monterrey in the final year of his deal, you're not worried about him coming back because it's the final year of his deal and you're not paying his salary. Granted, they didn't get a loan fee, so the DP spot doesn't fill up. However, now with Matuidi gone, you kind of still have another DP spot, so it's okay. And you don't need to sign all three DPs. We talked about that on the last pod. And if Pizarro's did free up a DP slot, sure, I'm sure they would try and fill it up. But if they knew Matuidi wasn't going to be on the books, I think that they would have tried to get a loan fee. I can't imagine that Chris Henderson didn't know that this was coming. So there's a lot to be said for how Chris Henderson in this front office is making moves. But I think right now, as pragmatic and it seems like it's taking a step back, but at the same time, I think it's setting themselves up for a future past 2023.
Alex, they lost one fan favorite in the Lewis Morgan trade, but the report also suggests that they regained another one in terms of Brek Shea re-signing with the club, and just wanted to initially, he's endearing to the club, and people really love him. Just to get your thoughts on if it's a smart signing. I mean, let's not forget that a couple of years ago he was initially signed as a Fort Lauderdale player. It's been kind of a roller coaster ride up and down with this. Is it smart business? Is it clever business? Is it sneaky business? What? How do you sort of assess this?
Smart. You get a veteran who knows the system, knows how Phil Neville wants to play, for a relatively cheap contract. Breck, he is a fan favorite, but he is also a utility player. Inter Miami love their guys that can play in multiple positions. Look at Ijoa, Jean Mata, Mo Adams. They're all players that can play in multiple positions, and Breck Shea just continues that theme of Inter Miami picking up versatile players. So I was not shocked to see him get re-signed. It took a little longer than I thought it would, but yeah, he's we've heard Phil Neville speak highly about Breck and his locker room presence and how he's just the most professional footballer in that room. So yeah, it comes as no shock and no surprise, and especially we spoke to Noah Allen a couple months ago. Was it a month ago? And he did say that when he was training with the first team, guys like Breck and Kieran Gibbs, but they helped him, sort of learn the ropes of being a left back. So it just shows that guys like Breck, he's got a he's got a good heart, and having someone like that in the locker room after these first two tumultuous seasons it'll go a long way into helping Inter Miami succeed.
I don't feel as bad for putting him number one on my free agent list now that the club has actually re-signed him in the last show. Like it was so funny to me when I saw the news that came out after we had finished recording. I was having a night, let's just say, and I saw that and I was like, oh my god, I literally just said this on the podcast and we just published it, and now he's been re-signed. So I'm happy for Brek Shea just on a personal level. I think that this move, being able to stay here. I know his family likes South Florida, and I've talked about his kids go to school here, and I feel like he's becoming very sociable too. There's a lot of things that I like about Brek Shea on and off the field, and I think Inter Miami can use a player like him. Like you said, Alex, he works in many positions. He understands the system. He's been here for a while, and I think that that's a guy that you need in a winning locker room, somebody that can come off the bench and be reliable and just do a job when he gets on the pitch at any time. He doesn't seem like he's going to be someone who tries to always, push for a starting job. However, he understands the role that he's in. He's always understood the role that he's in, to come off the bench and try and make an impact. And that's something that you have to just appreciate as much as possible. And they get him on this relatively small deal. I don't think it'll be a minimum deal, but it might be close to it. It may be around $100,000, $120,000, but nothing above that. After all the money you just freed up, I think it's a perfect signing.
Let's just close with a couple of just little housekeeping notes that it had. Officially, Bryce Duke announced as the signing by the club today. Comes over. Was a very nice piece for LAFC. A very nice speedy winger. We talked about him on the pod, but that was officially made this morning, and so he will be in the squad. But the other one that was rumored that I found interesting. It's been rumored for a while. It felt kind of imminent for a while, and I expect it'll probably come in the coming days. Is right back by the name of Christopher McVey from Sweden, and sort of Alex to your point, one of those Swiss Army knife guys. because he's a very tall 6'4" right back. I mean, you don't see a lot of those, and so not necessarily in the same role as what we've seen with Leardom, as what we've seen with some of the right backs that Uoa playing there when he did, that Inter Miami has put. Definitely a little bit of a different feel to it, but one that makes you wonder if that allows Figal to go back to center back and play that flat four. That was my first initial reaction. And Alex, I wonder if you were on the same tactical mind frame with that.
Yes, that is precisely why Christopher McVey is coming to Inter Miami. He's not only is he a proper right back, he can play as a center back, but this move is very much Figal, Makoun, starting as a center back pairing. So and I think the good thing about this move is that McVeigh also has an American passport. He's Swedish American, so he will not take up an international roster spot, which is huge. And we've seen a lot of those moves from Chris Henderson. Those dual nationals. He loves finding those. Yeah, it's just a good move overall. And I can't imagine he'll be too expensive. So not only is he a right back just hitting his prime, he's also going to be a very inexpensive signing, and also his height should help Miami on set pieces. So we saw so many times last season Lewis Morgan playing as a right wing back getting beat because he's literally 5'7". At the back post, he couldn't win headers. So how many goals have we seen conceded due to lack of height on the back line? So bringing in not only McVeigh, but if Amebika does sign, we've got a 6'4" right back and a 6'6" center back that should add some height and some conviction on those set pieces. So it's a good signing from Chris Henderson, and this offseason, for him it's just been rolling on, and I'm intrigued to see how McVay gets on.
Austin, I wanted to get your opinion on this from a depth standpoint. That it seems like a lot of the moves are a ton of left backs and right backs, and so it's just going to be Makoun and Figal in the middle, and then it'll be rotational on the outside, and whoever has the hot hand, they're going to go with. There seems to be a ton of depth along that right and left flank, and just to see where they're going to go with it.
Yeah, and I think that's a pretty decent thing. I think if you have a really good, center back tandem that you can rely on, and hopefully Figal and Makoun can be those two guys, the people who you put around them can be rotational. We know that with Kieran Gibbs, we don't know about his reliability and his consistency to stay on the pitch. There's somebody on the left side now in Breck Shea who can cover. They might bring in somebody else on the left side. I think Mo Adams is used to playing left back or right back as well. Now you have McVeigh. I think that there's these, we've said it multiple times, these versatile pieces who can play in multiple positions at multiple times, and there's just something to be said about the way they're constructing this roster for 2022 that does say young, that does say fresh, that does say deep. They're trying to get as many pieces to fit the system and can be plug and play, like we talked about in the last pod. And I think that's really good. And to build around a center back tandem that can be around for a while in Makoun and Figal, and just find the right pieces at right back and just test things out, and left back as well. I don't think it's a bad idea, and I think it's a pretty smart strategy to go into 2022, especially if they're relatively cheap, because you don't want to commit too much right now with all of the things that are happening.
Go read Michelle Kaufman's article at the Miami Herald. We will have more coverage on all of the offseason moves that Inter Miami is doing. And, hopefully sometime soon we're going to get into some of the moves that Inter Miami's rivals or competitors have made, so that we can understand a little more where their pecking order in the Eastern Conference is as we near this 2022 season. But just a quick emergency pod, if we're going to call it that. He is Austin Robillard. She is Alex Winley. For our producer, Andres, I am Ian Hest, and we will see you back here on the Heron Outlet. Make sure you like, subscribe, Instagram, Twitter, wherever you get your podcasts, and we'll see you back here soon.